All right. Let's see. Start recording. So, my goodness, Buggy Boy, I just started. How are you here already? All right. Well, thank you for showing up once again. You're always here. So, and just so you know, I thought about Chipotle all night last night, but didn't end up going because the rain picked up really hard right when I finished, and I didn't have the doors on the Jeep or anything, so I ended up just making some leftovers, but that worked out pretty darn well. I do suspect that I'll probably find some Chipotle here pretty soon, but I know you were talking about, not a big deal, Chipotle, whatever, but yeah, it sounds so good. And I'm still ready for it. But I was pretty happy though to end up seeing Phoenix get some rain. We're not used to actually getting much rain at all. So when it started raining, I just kind of took that as a win and enjoyed it. Yeah, the Jeep got a little wet, but I ended up throwing the doors on a few minutes into the rain. So I'm just gooping out a big pile of the clear glue because I don't like it on the head base, usually about anywhere that I'm gonna have black on black on black. So I'm just scooping out all the excess clear and I'll put it off to the side where it'll probably fall off the table and dump on the floor. So I'll put it over here. All right, so I got some black, some more black glue sticks. Yeah, I don't think I'll fall for that one, but it is still on my mind, so I'll probably end up getting some in the next, probably today. I might grab some. Actually, I think I've got some Uber Eats cash or whatever in my account. I canceled a couple American Express cards recently, so I still have money from that, so I better use it before its time is up. All right. Okay, so continuing on with the Blood Moon build. I know you've hung out and seen this many a times, but I decided I'm gonna use some black minky. So I had some remnants here from some of my Big Z minky orders. So figure I'm gonna go ahead and use that kind of on the chin rest area. I think I did that on one of my builds, and I actually really enjoyed having the minky down there. I don't know if it was just the plushness of it or the absorbency or all of everything, but I'm gonna go ahead and lay some of the minky, kind of get where I want the majority of it, and then I'll be able to kind of fold it around and chop it out. So it's always kind of a how much material do I need? I want to be able to kind of wrap it around the edge of the jaw here. That way I've got something resting against my face that's really nice and soft. And yeah, so I'll run that around and then I'll mount the rest of the fur from the neck on there. But and so I'm catching up on the chat now. Good morning, Alan. Once again, welcome. Currently collecting pop tabs and have over 100. Sounds like chainmail almost. I wonder if that's what you're doing. Because I could see pop tabs being a pretty good use for making like a chainmail. Probably not, but that's what I'm going to mentally assume since you're being a little secretive here. So, alright. So I'm going to run a nice little bead of black glue from the glue stick there. And I'm gonna just kind of stuff this right into place and hope I've got enough material on either side. But all right, and stick it in there. So I made it like a little chin cup, more or less, on the base here. So I'm trying to just kind of wrap it around that chin cup, get it nice and smooth. Right now it's got a few wrinkles in here, but I should be able to work those out. I just want to get this stuck into that crease here, and hopefully the jaw works pretty well this time. The last one was not that great. Well, I know the pop taps are for that, but I could see collecting those and then weaving them together to kind of create like a chainmail. But we'll see. I don't know. Or maybe it's a school collection thing. I know that that aluminum's kind of like a higher grade than the rest of the can, like a 6061 or something like that aluminum. So I should probably shut up before I let nerd out. But yeah, so they might be for that. All right. So there's a little bit there. I'm gonna fill in a small little hole in here. Just to ensure I have some material stuck kind of right down in the middle. I'm gonna fill in a little gap that I had. And that should stick it nice and tight. All right, so this morning I checked on the eyes that I had made. I think more or less they are looking pretty good. So I popped them out of the mold and they were nice and clear. I made them a tad bit smaller than normal, and they're actually fitting inside the eye holes of Blood Moon a whole lot better. But then I had to glue the backing onto the eyes, so they're over there gluing onto the E6000 since the first ones I made just didn't quite work well. I kind of jacked them up with the glue, but it is what it is. So I just made some new ones kind of off camera. I'm thinking I should have poured another batch, but I only have one set of uh, molds for them, so I could only do one at a time. But I think I'll make another batch, and I think I'll probably start making my angry Blood Moon here before too long. Probably in between FWA and Furry Weekend LA. That sounds like a good time for me to kind of start working on a second project. And maybe I'll take it to Furry Weekend LA, but if I don't, not a biggie. It's, but I think I would have a little bit more space to be able to travel with that. So, all right. So now I'm just doing a real thin layer, tried to get it pretty even, and now I'm gonna pull the Minky up and over and try to spread it nice and flat, especially where that chin area tends to lay. All right, so far looking all right. Until I get to this corner back here. All right, that's looking better. Pull, pull, pull. Oh yeah. Sorry, I talked to myself, but all right. You can kind of see what I've got going on here. The chin will just kind of rest right in there. And usually this little bit of a lip here catches on the chin, and I just kind of have a little bit of friction, which holds the chin and the chin rest and everything just in place. So, all right. Now yep, got enough. So the last couple bases, I tend to find that my face hits this little corner here on the jaw. So I think I'm gonna take that corner. I'm gonna just round it out a little tiny bit. Because I have scratched my forehead when I've slid on the head and kind of sucks. Alright. So trimming that to a little bit smoother transition. And then I'll run the Minky around it as well just to smooth it out, make it nice. Alright. Do I clean my suit? Um, yes, I have. And do I often? It depends on the one, but yeah, so I've only had the last one for about a month and a half, so it hasn't been that dirty. Uh, I went to the Renaissance Fair and then to Moab, So two really dirty places, but overall, I keep it pretty clean. I try not to get it too dirty to begin with, but when I do it, usually it's kind of like a simple green, not simple green, but the little green machine type things. That's usually what I use just to clean or just a little bit in the tub with some soap and kind of detergent. That tends to clean it pretty decent for me. But that's what I've run into. But unfortunately, I haven't really had too many of my heads long enough to really get them too dirty before I lost, Blood Moon 1.0 and 2.0. But I did definitely clean 1.0 quite a bit because it was used a whole lot more. But I only had him for about a year before I lost him. Such a shame. Um, let's see. But yeah, the current Blood Moon, what is he? 3.0. He wasn't too bad, despite being kind of in the back of the Jeep, but I had him inside like one of those black plastic tubs with the yellow tops. That was kind of what I used to travel with, so all the dust and everything was pretty well trapped outside of the box. And when I pulled Blood Moon out, it wasn't really a big deal. There wasn't blowing dust. It's actually pretty heavy sand over in like Moab in Utah. Um, let's see. Sorry, trying to work my way around this corner here, trying to get the jaw nice and smooth. All right. Lots of extra material, but hey, that's what we have. I did chop this section out of a larger chunk, but I'm like, I want to make sure I've got plenty. That way I can kind of cut down and around and then flip it up and over around. But I think I've mentioned in the past that Minky really sucks to cut. If I use this cheap scissors, I don't know, this will probably work just fine. No, it's a little bit tougher. You have to take lots of little bites into it, and then it just frays up the edges. I don't know if we can see, but yeah, Minky sucks to cut. So a little while back, I saw Hobby Lobby had some scissors, so I got some. What are these? Fiskar scissors, and I went with those. And let's see, they just really nicely cut the Minky. So I'm just gonna leave maybe about a inch, 3/4 inch lip here, work around the edge. There we go. And then I'll stretch that tight around the corner of the fursuit. That's about where the neckline of the head kind of falls anyway, so I'm just trying to get some of this excess material off. And then trim a little bit more. Alrighty. So, alright. Getting a little bit closer. Let me see if I can do the same for the top side. I want to leave a little bit on the jaw tab here. That way I can put the hinge in without really having to worry about the Minky. If I get a little bit on the Minky, I don't mind doing that on my own suit. It's not a big deal, but I'd like to trim this off just a tad bit. All right. And now some of the excess. All right, so that's pretty decent right here. Keep working my way up. One of the things that I like to try to avoid is having too much kind of hanging out of the mouth here because my lips do come up here and I keep them exposed. So I'll probably run it towards the inside, and the black on the inside of the mouth isn't a big deal. And then I'll just trim it real close to the edge along the plastic. That way the outside's clean. But I keep my lips just the plain old TPU plastic, and I think it works just fine. I'm not too worried about that. Alright, so I'll run a little bit of glue along my little chin cup that I put in here, which again you can't really see super well. But there's a little EVA foam, like a 1 mil ledge there, so I'll put a little bit of black glue on that, squeeze it nice and flat, and then bend it around. This Minky isn't quite like the Mochi Minky. It's not as stretchy as like a Squishmallow, but I'm pretty happy with how this stuff is. It's pretty smooth and pretty soft and gives a little bit of cushion. So I'm looking forward to that for my jaw. We'll see how that turns out though. I'm sure I'll have a report after FWA. And if that worked, great. If not, well, that sucks. It'll probably be super hot and sweaty and never clean anything out, and it'll never dry out. I'll probably be super angry I did it, but oh well. I bought one of those super like jet engine fans, so I think if I end up getting this thing super wet and sweaty, which I'm sure I will, I'll be able to dry things out fairly quickly. But we'll see. Wow, 192 pop tabs. That's quite a bit. If it was in our house, they would all come from Dr. Pepper. Some variation of Dr. Pepper. I've really come to like that blackberry Dr. Pepper. It's pretty good. So that means they'll probably discontinue it because I'm like, ooh, this is good. My wife doesn't like it. She thinks it's kind of like cough syrup. I'm I don't see it. I like it. But she's kind of a original Dr. Pepper person. I don't blame her. I like original Dr. Pepper, but I really do like that blackberry stuff. All right. Corners working itself out. There we go. Run another little edge here. And I do find that works pretty decent inside the mouth here. It just kind of blends in, and the black on black inside the mouth, no one can really tell that it goes from a plastic to the fur or the minky. It just kind of blends in, mainly because no one's staring too deep into your mouth. And if they do, they're kind of weird in the first place. So, all right. There we go. That'll work. Uh, and I'll just go ahead and line the rest of it of what I can here. I also find that this black stuff just kind of keeps nice and warm and is somewhat pliable, so as you squeeze it, it just flattens out real well. I think the clear plastic glue, it tends to lump up and just leave little layers of just hard plastic or glue or whatever it is. Where this stuff, it just kind of spreads real nice and smooth and even. And when it gets on my fingers, it lays a different way. It's a lot more like just melted plastic, like soda bottles. If you ever just melted one down, it smears. Actually, here. eh, Oh, I didn't get enough on my fingers, but it lays differently. So I kind of like it, and it really sticks to TPU well. Again, I got that stuff from Hobby Lobby. I normally go and they have about 5 packs of like 18 or 19 at a time because they only have very few of these just on a shelf. It's usually at the entrance. They're like $3.50 for a pack of 18 of them. They're not huge, they're for the miniguns, but despite that, I buy them every time I walk in the store. If they have them, I buy them because five at a time, that's about 100 glue sticks, and that might get me through 1.5 heads, if that. And I like just having a collection of materials, so it's like 20 bucks. I've got them. I'm happy. So, let's see. There we go. Getting a little bit more there. Uh, let's see. You can get 3 of them every day at school because my friend brings sodas daily. Wow. Does your friend drink 3 sodas at school daily? Because that seems like quite a few. I don't get me wrong, I can easily do that, but I have been trying to cut back, and I think I'm down to almost no Dr. Peppers, no sodas a day now. I've been doing slushies, or not slushies, smoothies in the mornings, and that works pretty well. It kind of cures my need for something other than water, which I've actually started drinking a whole lot more water too. I go to work, they've got ice machines and uh, the reverse osmosis water machines, so I tend to drink a whole lot more water, a lot more better for me things, and trying to get rid of more and more of my fat butt here. But can't really say that I don't like myself a good collection of soda. So I tend to, I think I've said this, just use a flat piece of material for my linings on the head base or whatnot, at least for Blood Moon, because it's kind of very flat, very linear. It doesn't really have a whole lot of curvature to it. Whereas when I made Jinx and Amon, both of those, uh, some of you guys probably haven't seen Amon. Uh, Cade, she's been in and out of the chats over the last week or so, but I made Amon for her. It's one of her sonas, and so Jinx and Amon have the same base, and it's kind of got a curvature to it. So I tend to use a template, duct tape template for making those, and then I come along and trim everything out, sew it together. But Blood Moon, like I said, he's just mostly flat. I can just squeeze it in and form it around everything that I need. So you can see it's overall pretty flat in here, and it just curves real nice. The downfall with Minky is it always drops all these little fuzz pieces, and they blow all around the house. But alright, so that's one edge. I'll wrap that around the corner, so I'll trim that down just a tad bit more. Alright. There we go. And do the same thing on this side. Trim it down, and then I'll glue it around. Alright. Yeah, energy drinks are another one. Like when I'm, yeah, I'll say when I had a job over in the Middle East, I think we talked about me being over there for a bit. The the amount of coffee and just energy drinks and everything like that that I drank were just incredible. I got to the point where I just kind of felt like I had to have it. So I would drink like a pot and a half of coffee probably in the morning. And then if somebody had more coffee in the afternoon, I'd probably grab a cup or two of coffee. And it'd get to the point where if I didn't have coffee within about an hour of me having the last one, my eyes would start twitching. And I'm like, I need to stop drinking as much coffee. I was, I think, addicted to it, and my body would go into withdrawals, or the caffeine would kick in. One of the two. But the fix for it was always more coffee. So that's the joy that I was living. So since then, I've tried to cut back quite a bit more. Uh, I'm still occasionally drinking coffee. Like this morning, I went ahead and I had a little bit of coffee left over, so I made like a smoothie coffee. Now it's just kind of like melted coffee and creamer. But does taste good. It's got like a peppermint creamer from Starbucks. It's a non-dairy one, but yeah, it's pretty darn good. I like peppermint. Uh, so yeah, let's fold this around and I'll check chat. Smear, smear, smear. All of this is on the underside where the main fur would occur anyway, so I'm not too worried about it having a little bit of smear marks, but let's see. I lost my 3D pen a while ago, and it would massively help me if I had it, so I want to save up to buy another one. I assume it's like those 3D printing 3D pens, so yeah, my daughter had one of those. It's been, we're living in Georgia still, so that was probably 2016 to 2019, somewhere in there. They're pretty cool little pens. She made like an Eiffel Tower and a giraffe and dinosaur stuff like that, so that was pretty cool. I think they're the same filament. It's just usually those are much smaller strips and they come in like sticks and stuff, but I think they're about the same filament, like a PLA. So, all right. Think I'm almost done with the minky on the jaw. All right. Jeez, so much fuzz. Okay, so one of the things I used to do for the hinges on the jaws was I would use like screws and nuts and stuff like that to just run through the holes that are on the hinges here. Over time, I've decided that that just created too much friction, which made the jaw like really finicky and hard to move around. So I've swapped to just putting like a little tiny pin of aluminum, and then I bend out like a little tab there. I run it through the hole, and then on the outside of the head, I wrap it around as well, and that just creates a nice smooth rotational piece that has their basically zero friction. And I say basically zero friction. There's tons of friction, but not as much as like a screw would do. And then as I was talking, it would just easily follow what my mouth would do, and that tended to work pretty well. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple. It's really hard to get it to work unless you actually have your mouth chin cup in the right spot. So I think I've got this to work pretty well, and we can kind of test out my assumption that I've got it close. So let's see. I think I'll scrape some of this fuzz onto the floor. And today the fuzz pile is going to be on the back side. Get off the laptop. There we go. All right. So we've got the head base. We have these pins. These are just kind of my temporary pins. They're not the final ones. They're all bent up and misshapen, but they help kind of at least let me test things out and get things kind of set the way I think I should have them. So there's one, there's two, and like I said, these ones I just kind of bend into place. They're real light aluminum, so they bend really well. They're probably super fragile, but once they're set there, they really don't have any pressure on them for like back and forth bending, so they don't tend to break, at least yet, and if they do, I don't think it'd be too difficult to replace them. But we'll find out. Actually, I hope we don't find out, but if we do, it is what it is. So, I think you can see that the jaw it kind of works, I think, the way I want it to do, so it, it works within the confines of what I'm hoping, so. I never really noticed that the jaw works super great because I'm not a mouth talker. Well, I am, but I don't exaggerate my movements. So if I did, you can always see that, hey, it works decent. It's just I'm not always talking real hard. So exaggerating my jaw movements for in suit is difficult because you sound totally different and you just look awkward trying to talk with, hey, I'm you. So that's what it is. But I think it works. So hopefully that works. Um, and then like this little, yes, check the other chat. All right. Okay. All right. So we have Blood Moon up on the head base or on the headstand, more or less. I'll put the elastic on that part of the ear. I don't really have them on the inside parts of the ear. I don't know that I need it, but I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit there. Assuming I can find the elastic again. Yep, it is. So, I'm going to chop off a couple small chunks here. And for the inside of the ears, that's not going to see as much stress, but I want to make sure that it stays kind of stuck on the back part of the head. So I'm just going to get enough here that it just kind of holds it into place. So that's probably 5 inches or so. I know that's probably out of view. Sorry. All right. So we'll take a peek. That's probably way more elastic than I really need, but I don't mind having excess and holding the ear kind of into place. So I'll do a little bit of that real quick. I'll run a nice little bead on one chunk, and then I'll put that into place, and then I'll fill in on the other side. All right, got about an inch of black on there. And now I'll just press that onto the foam backing. So it's got some heat to it. All right. So now it's only on this little bit of the back of the head here, and then I'll come through and do another layer down the length of the ear. And then I'll do the same thing to this other side. We'll squeeze this on. Welcome back. All right. There we go. The other side. And I've got a little bit of overhang, overlap, stuff like that. Not a big deal. I can just trim that out with some scissors or glue it down some more, but I'll just chop that off. So then it just creates a nice little structure. And because I do walk around and carry Blood Moon by his ears, or his ears just take so much abuse because they are about 1.25 times the size of the head base. There's a lot of pressure on them. That's a lot of fur, a lot of glue, just a lot of stuff. So I like to ensure that the ears don't just rip off on me. Kind of a bad thing to have your ears tear off. So, and I did the same type thing with Jinx and Amon, trying to just create as much structure on the backside there so that the most prevalent pieces that might get used for carrying, they're probably gonna definitely get that use. I don't want it just to destroy the things. But it's one of those things. I really don't know. I've never had an issue, but time will tell. And after probably a year or two, I'll really know what the long-term durability and structure and everything is. But I feel like these are pretty well secured. So, and I have so much glue strings going all over the place. All right. Oh man, my legs are covered in minky fuzz. Yuck. All right. And some more glue on the other side. Sorry, you can't see. I know you're probably not watching anyways, but here we go. Oh no, not enough glue. One more glue stick. Can you change the movie in the living room? I think that it just ended. All right, there we go. Got the ear structure kind of together. It should hold that onto the head base. I don't know what to call this, like the head harness piece. Oh hey, I'm saying duct tape patterning Blood Moon still. That's not the case. Let's change that. Let's say lining the head of Blood Moon. Sweet, there we go. All right. What else can I do? Because I'm waiting on the eyes to dry with that E6000. I don't see any huge bubbles forming. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Or I hope I'm right that there's nothing forming. It looked pretty good there. But think you guys saw at least the ones, but you can see all the bubbles. I went with a real thick layer of E6000 on the last video, actually a few days ago. And normally I press it down real hard to get everything just nice and smooth, but this one, being on video, I kind of just left it and didn't see all the bubbles that were in there because of the low light that I had. So I saw that, and if I'm gonna light it up with the LED lights later to get his eyes glowing for like the night dances and raves and stuff like that, I know those will just light up like a sore thumb, and I really didn't want that, so I remade his eyes. That was off camera, but you guys didn't want to see me make that again. I just used less E6000 this time. All right. Um, so about one of the biggest things left that I can have is on the back of the head, which the way I built my head base or the support there, yeah, it's a little bit off level. I'll maybe trim it a little bit just to make it level, but truly I don't care. That's not a big deal for me. I need to get these two pieces of elastic kind of figured out here. So I've been going back and forth on different ways of how I want to run this. And I think I'm gonna have a piece of elastic that runs across, and then I'm gonna put the Velcro on one side and then have that strap on, and then run another piece of Velcro across the back, and they're going to be encapsulating and having two layers of Velcro that kind of get stuck. And I think that's how I'm going to run it. I don't know if I'll use this top piece of elastic harness or not, but I'll have it there just in case I decide to use it. So with that, I'm going to look at how much material I have here. And I think that should be about right. And because it's on a head base, that is pretty close to what I should need. I'm gonna just trim it off. I'll stick the pin back in the elastic to keep the roll as a wheel still. All right. So now that I have my piece of elastic here, it looked like if I did everything in about thirds, that'll give me kind of the worst case or best case or a case, I don't know, possible. So I've got it close to about thirds here. And what I'm doing there is really just trying to figure out where I want to put different types of elastic. So that looks about perfect. So I'm going to mark it with a silver Sharpie, like where my bends in the elastic are. That way I know where I want to put Velcro. And I keep that kind of known. So I'm going to do it on both sides. There's one. And two. All right. So yeah, I think you can see I've got two marks, breaking it up into thirds. And I've got some Velcro here that's, I don't know, it's probably ½ inch, 3/4 inch Velcro. I've got the hook and loops. I'm thinking I'm gonna do the hook in the middle. So if you can see, I've got the thirds, the hook in the middle, and I'll trim that maybe a little bit short of all the way to the ends. So I'm gonna not use the good scissors. And I'm gonna mark right about there. But I probably want to have both the front and the back when I cut it, so get those tied together here. All right, so I find the mark of about where I want, and that looks about right. That looks about right, and chop. All right, then I will probably come back through here and pin these down if I can find the needles for holding everything together. If not, I'll just do the clips for now. So, because I was kind of looking for the needles the other day, or the pins. I didn't see them. My daughter might have taken them with her, because we tend to steal each other's projects, materials, and yep. So I stole them from her in the first place, so if she took them, it's definitely, they're hers. All right. Clip, clip. All right, so I'm gonna want to have one flip over and hold. So I'm gonna have Velcro on one side here, but I think I'm gonna want Velcro on the back side as well. So then when it flips over, I'll have another hook and loop. So there we go. Get these aligned again. I'll do a chop. And that goes over there. Okay, so I have a little bit here. I think I've got a lighter still. Yep. All right. So I didn't burn the tips off of this yet, so I'm just melting these down real fast. Burnt that down. Glad to see that I don't quite catch on fire so easily if I go to a furry convention and have a lighter come up to me. I'll burn for a little bit, but not too long. There we go. And if I do, I'll just put my finger on it. Okay, since you're so creative, do you enjoy writing? That's one thing I like to do. I'd like to write a nonfiction book someday, and I've acquired lining for the thing. Yes. So really, I'm not a writer. Uh, yeah, I if I were, I think I'd have much better like scripts or ideas for my YouTube stuff. And you guys have seen how probably generic, like I don't really go too deep into anything because really it's not the thing that I like to do. Uh, so that's probably one of the biggest issues I have with my YouTube side is I really just kind of suck at writing and coming up with ideas, and I'm engineer by degree or whatnot, so my big thing is very straight to the point, and that's kind of where it resides. So I feel like that's kind of one of the big things that I lack is just that creativity piece. I tried to get my kids to be a little bit more creative. My daughter, she's very creative on that side. She's been a writer for years, but she doesn't really do it so much anymore, but she can. She just it's not her thing. She's also kind of like a maker. But yeah, I've tried to get my son to just make stuff up and use his creativity, but he won't. He doesn't like that. So, which I don't blame him. It's kind of the same with me, but you gotta have some creativity with that writing, just not nothing. So, okay. So I've got essentially hook and loop, three different pieces on this side, and then a catcher on the other side. So that gives me lots of Velcro, and hopefully that'll get me what I need. No, I think what I would like to do is be a little bit more descriptive and be able to talk about things and not just be like, here's what it is, straight to the point, and there is no discussion piece. It's just I gave you what I think and I'm done. Where I think other people have a lot more, I don't know, explanation of what they're coming to. They put thought and process into it, and I'm like, here, this is what I have. If you want more, figure it out on your own. So it's not it's not quite the way it is, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. So all right, hot glue gun there. what this is. Is this thread? Sorry, I'm talking to myself, but I've apparently got thread bound up all around my stuff. And here it is. Okay, so I've got the thread. It was wrapped up around my glue gun as I'm sliding my sewing machine towards me. And I say my sewing machine, it's my daughter's once again. She was the sewer and I just accumulate and kind of use all the stuff that she doesn't have with her in college. So, all right. Sewing machine on. Do I need glue gun anymore? I probably do, but I'm gonna unplug it for a little bit. Whoops. That was not the hot glue gun, that was the sewing machine. Alright, glue gun, get away from me for now. There we go. Alright. Ooh. That really changed what you guys see. That made it dark, which makes sense. Let's see. That's okay. I think you guys can see. All right. Well, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. This shouldn't take too long anyway, so. All right, so I'm just gonna run once again, a straight stitch down the length. Of course, my hands are gonna be on the wrong side. You guys can't see anything. We'll zoom in as close as we can without moving the camera. And hopefully that works. Back stitch once and twice, that'll work. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I totally missed the edge of the Velcro. But that's fine. I'll do a couple layers or lines through it. Actually, it looks like I caught it. Nope, I did good. Try to do like an X. And once again, down the length, about to the edge. And I'll make another X line. And do I actually know what I'm doing and if this is how you're supposed to do stuff? No, no, I don't. Is it just how I do it? Yep, 100%. You guys know that by now. Alright, so. Come on, focus. It's so dark. There we go. You can kind of see it. I should turn off auto white balance, but most of the time it works. But this super bright LED light just, it stands out. All right, I think I'm gonna go with the edge over here as well because I got one far end. I'll probably leave the middle for the edge, but then I've got Velcro on both sides of this piece of elastic. Does the lack of, I don't know, I'm sure the Velcro really makes elastic not worth being elastic anymore because I'm sewing it down with a straight stitch, very little excess material for it to stretch, but I'm really not looking for a whole lot of stretch, but I don't want a hard thing on the back of my head. So this tends to work pretty decent. We'll find out. All right. Am I out of thread? Nope, I've got thread. I think I've got bobbin still. That's the worst. I think I've, on almost every tail that I've made, I've run the sewing machine down it, have it, what in my mind looks like a perfect sew, and then I've taken out about 150 of these clips. That's binding all the fur together. And then I get to the very end and I discover the bobbin, which is the thread on the bottom side of the machine here. It ran out like 2 seconds into my sew, and the entire stupid thing has to be re-sewed together because all of my stitches never actually stitched. And so then the whole tail is basically having to be sewn twice because I screwed up and then didn't check the bobbin. So usually now, before I start the tail, I double check, see what the bobbin looks like, see if there's enough material in there for me to be happy. But back stitch, cut. Let's see if I got the back side. Yep, looks good enough. All right. And guess got one little strip left here and see how that goes. Get off there. I'm sure if real makers saw what I was doing, they'd probably just laugh at me. But I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a sewer. I sew a lot, but I don't really have the mechanics of like what different thread stitching or whatever stitches do. And I think I have ideas like, hey, this one's kind of a triangular shape and it's got a lot of space between. That's gonna allow a little bit more flexibility. This one wraps around the edges. Okay, that's gonna capture the two pieces and kind of keep the edges from fraying apart. Am I gonna go and use those stitches? Probably not. I like my straight stitch. And I'm sure I'll change that in the future when I discover that straight stitch doesn't work for something, but I'm happy with what I do. For one, it doesn't take me forever. Whoops. Back stitch. All right. Get in there. All right. Okay, so I do have a little bit of stretchiness. I'll kill this guy here. Ah, look, so much brightness again. Okay, so I've got the three pieces of Velcro on there. It's got a little stretchiness to it, so there is some movement if I need to put my head, you know, in and it's tight, that'll work. And then I think that piece will fall upon itself, and then the top will latch on. I put it where the extra crunchy side, sorry, where the crunchy side will lay down, and if I have a little bit of the hook part or the loop sticking out, it's not gonna snag the fur and the hair and stuff like that. So I think this will work pretty decent. I guess I can try it out and see. So one side. All right. That. Got my fan cord. Oh yeah, that works about perfect. You can see how it kind of lays across the back of my head. I really don't feel like I need the loop on the top. Like I said, I'll probably just leave it there. Maybe I'll find something I can strap in there. Maybe I'll maybe I can put the what is it? The AirTag, the Apple AirTag. Maybe I'll put one kind of up in the head and just sew it in. If I ever need to get to it, I should be able to get to the zipper and get there. So maybe I'll just, that might be a good AirTag spot. I really do kind of like that thought. Um, because it'll be hidden. I'll know where it's at. Everybody that watches YouTube, at least this one, they'll know where it's at. So if you steal my head, there we go. Or if I lose it again, because we all know that that's happened once or twice before. Once before, two heads. That sucks. All right. Jaw is there. Back of the head has some strapping. It's still adjustable, but not too tight. I don't know. I'm happy with that. Looks good. And I said a few minutes ago, do I need the whatever hot glue gun again? Yes, I do. I need it like now. Because this is where I'll come in and I'll start lining the inside of the head. So I'll take my elastic off again. That makes it easy. And let's see. How do I want to go about doing this? I don't think I want to do Minky. I'd love to do Minky because it's just so soft and nice, but I know that would suck over a long period. But, alright, let me step away for just a moment and get a check on a movie. Sounds like got an angry child. We'll take a quick intermission. Let's see. I think I even have an option for that. Can I? I don't know. Screen transitions. I don't know. You guys can just sit here and stare at the mess that I have. So, there, have Blood Moon. Enjoy. I should really move this table away. All right. What's your favorite part about the fursuit making? All right, I think I'm back. All right. I think for me, I don't know if you're talking to me or Buggy Boy, but I'm sure it's me because I'm making one right now. Uh, I think my favorite part is just trying to figure things out, like what the correct process is or should be for doing certain things. And I don't really know what the correct process really is. So I like to kind of go through that discovery process. I'm sure there's great tutorials out there that help me or could help me, but I don't think I haven't looked at them for years or about a year and a half, 2 years now. I watch some furry stuff, but not a whole lot on tutorials or anything like that anymore. Uh, Really just because I had the gist down and now I like to kind of figure out what I want to do on my own. What works, what my process is, and I look at things that I find in like the automotive or industrial world and see how I could apply those to fursuit making and just different things. So I kind of try to pull things from other sources that don't necessarily always come from like a normal furry type build. So for me, it's just trying to find different things. When my daughter she made her boyfriend a suit that's really a pretty cool dragon or whatnot. I'll see if I can pull up a dragon or a picture of him. But he has a really big tail. It's, I think, 6'7" or something like that. And we wanted to keep it off the ground, keep it from dragging through everywhere. So we were looking at trying to keep it up airborne. And I'm like, she was going with a normal little belt. I said, how about if you use like what was it, body building or kind of like that back brace belt? And they used that and it worked really well. It kind of supported the weight and doesn't weigh things down super bad. You can't see the whole thing, but this is the suit that she made for her boyfriend. The tail just keeps coming out further and further out, but you can see this thing is massive. But that's the type of stuff I like to do is kind of figure out, hey, what works, what doesn't. So that is Nox, and that's his tail. Like I said, it's as long as he is pretty much height wise. So that thing's pretty massive, and it just stays airborne. It's got a foam core base with a EVA foam uh, middle, so the thing just swings, and he likes hitting people with it. Uh, yeah, so that is Nox. But all right, I'll come back to this. I should probably plug in the glue gun again because I just mentioned how it needed that again, and I haven't glued it. Turn it back on. All right, here we go. So that's back on. I need to figure out about the size of fabric. So, like I said, I use like a sports shirt fabric, so it's flexible in more or less 4 dimensions, but one direction's a lot more pliable than the other. So I'll take that somewhat into account as I'm kind of figuring out how big of a chunk I need. And despite you could see kind of through it, it's actually pretty thick, but it tends to be a pretty good material. It wicks that moisture away and kind of keeps me dry. And then I also have the uh, balaclavas. I tend to go with the F class balaclavas. They help just kind of wick moisture away, kind of keep the everything kind of directly off your face when you're in fursuit here. If I had hair, which I have little tiny bits of hair, uh, it keeps it out of your face. So women tend to wear them the most, and that way the hair is kind of tucked up out of the way and doesn't get caught up in the fursuit stuff. So, But yeah, this kind of does the exact same thing. It's just an extra layer of protection. Let's see. I just don't want to short myself on material. I think that'll work. So once again, the good new scissors I got a few weeks ago, these things work really well on the slick material. So Minky, the sports fabric, all of these are really kind of difficult to cut with like normal scissors. So having a good pair of sharp scissors really make a difference when you're cutting this type stuff. You don't have to kind of saw your way through it. All right, there's a bit there, and I know my lines aren't very straight. I'm just kind of chopping. Chop, chop, chop. Ow. It's fabric scissors, not finger choppers. All right, so got myself a nice little chunk of material. Want to see which way that stretch was? I think it is. Okay, it's back and forth, so I put very little padding or anything in the very top part of the dome of my head, and I'm okay with that. I kind of just have that small piece of EVA. So typically, let's see if I have any glue. I know if it's still cold. But I'll typically kind of work a bead of glue around the edges, and then I'll start getting kind of that initial layer kind of nice and flat and get that laid. And then after that, then I start just kind of stretching it into place and tucking a lot of that glue down into seams that already exist. So like down the middle, maybe a little bit underneath the back part of the head harness, and just doing little pools kind of in the corners where it's just plastic. You can barely see in there, but that's just a deep, dark plastic hole. I'll stuff it into there and use up some of that excess material in there as well. Let's see. All right. So once I get that, you know what? One thing I would like to do, because I did bring this, the top of the jaw right almost to my upper lip, I'm gonna line that as well. And that part I think I'm gonna do with Minky because it's kind of touching directly on my skin and I just want that little bit of extra softness. Um, I think I'll just do Minky. Normally I'd probably put a real thin piece of EVA. Let's see. If I see any EVA here, here's a small chunk. All right, so got a small piece of EVA. I'm just gonna chop a real small chunk off of this. It's really gonna be almost nothing, but I'm gonna use that kind of as a backer piece, just so I don't have my face directly against the TPU. If I get bopped in the nose and it transfers to my face, that would be like directly on my upper lip. So I'm gonna put just a small layer of potential protection. Probably won't do much, but it's gonna give me something. Yeah, that should be fine. I'm just gonna glue kind of along the edge, and then once I wrap the Minky around it, that'll give me one extra layer of softness that hopefully doesn't screw up my face. And I can tell I'm gonna burn the crap out of myself because this is a real thin line and I've already glued my finger and I haven't even done anything to it yet. All right. At least the glue isn't super hot yet, so that kind of stuck to my finger, but nothing too bad. There we go. We got some black. It'll fall off. There we go. No blisters. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna run just a small strip of minky kind of across and around that piece. So let me square a piece up here and that'll be my chunk. All right. All right, so I'm gonna just run a little bead kind of along the edge of the mouth of hot glue. Then once I have this, I'll set the minky down into it, kind of position the side that's most seen, kind of get that more or less set in place, and then I'll wrap it around the back. Hopefully it's long enough. It probably isn't. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, it is long enough. That'll work. And I'll trim off a little tiny bit there here in a minute. So I'll get this little corner just kind of pooching out a little bit here. Put another little dab of glue because it dried up on that corner here. So make it nice and strong. All right, there's some. Sorry guys, I know black on black kind of sucks, but hopefully you understand what's going on if you care. If you're just here for the entertainment value of seeing somebody embarrass themselves, well, here we are. All right. This one, I think I just have to kind of hope for the best. All right, so once again, kind of along the edge of that foam, I'm just going to run some more glue if I can hold this into place. And then I'll wrap it around and hopefully get a little bit of that stuck on here. On the back side of the minky. And fingers crossed it all works. Go, minky, go. All right. I feel like that'll give me something, and I've got a few little tack marks I need to probably tack it in a little bit more here. One. Kind of along the edges here, just keep it from tearing up. Oh yeah, that feels real good right along the upper lip, so it's warm. All right, so you can kind of see what I did right in there. Just gave it a nice little transition round piece, and if I get whacked in the nose, it doesn't push sharp plastic right into my face. So Now it's about a 1/4 inch in thickness. It's got foam and a little bit of minky. So all in all, I think that'll help capture any blows. What was that? USB cable for the eyes? Nope. So I have a little fan you can see right about here. It's built into the muzzle there, so that'll be the fan that I run for keeping cool. I hardly ever use it, and but when I do, I kind of picture like FWA. It's probably going to be pretty hot in Georgia if we do any outdoor picture stuff, which I just talked to Jinx this morning and she's like, yep, pictures sound great. She had fun doing that here in Phoenix, so we're thinking we'll probably go out and do a few pictures nearby at some of the sites. I know the world of Coca-Cola and stuff, there's just pretty little open spaces there. I know should probably stay in groups, so hopefully we have a group of people that are kind of nearby that we can kind of stay together because after dark in Atlanta can be interesting, but it should be nice. But yeah, the fan will help quite a bit. Let's see. I think I will go with the nice sharp side of the line there. But no, I will have the eyes. I've got another LED, or not LED, USB cable that'll tie into the eyes. So I think I'm still gonna just go with the normal USB-C for that. I've thought about trying to combine two of them into a single one, and I've got a splice that I could run a USB-C into it rather than just normal USB. I don't know. I'll figure that out, but I don't want to mess anything up. So I feel like if I'm running the eyes, which will probably only be at night when it's probably a little bit cooler, I can run one or the other, but not both. So I'm not too worried about it. All right, so like I said, I kind of want to get the base layer kind of figured out, give myself plenty of material to stretch it around as needed, but not get too crazy with it. So, all right. So the lining, I have kind of a general spot there. I'll come in here. I should probably put a new fresh glue stick in there, which I don't have enough room to. And I'll just capture a small little chunk along the rim of the back of the head. And I'll stuff it back here underneath the foam that I have in existence already. And that way I've got something stuck in place. I don't have a hard seam that's sitting right on my head or anything. And it's kind of tucked up underneath that foam. So that got me the first little start to it. And now I can put actually a new glue stick in. That'll be nice. All right. And then I'm just going to continue because I ran out just a tad bit. Okay, so you can probably see that's a nice kind of flat surface in there. It won't bunch up. And now I'll just kind of work a little bit of glue kind of towards the front of my EVA foam again. And I'll just capture that and then I'll probably trim right up to the edge of it because I'm not lining the entire inside. I don't I don't need it to be that pretty, and in a way, having it completely lined, I really don't like it. For me, I feel like it captures and holds like my breath and just that heat in general. All these holes get covered up, which allow for ventilation. So I'm trying to keep a little bit of air movement and nice fresh, you know, life being breathed into this. So I'll tack it in spots, but I don't want to build up and cover the entire inside. And now along the plastic, I'm just gonna, like I said, pull up a little bit more down in here. That way it can capture and hold nice and tight. And I still have to throw the eyes in, which hopefully I can do that here in the next couple hours. You say a nap, and I'm like, hey, it's still early, but I forget you guys are all like hours ahead of me if you're on the East Coast or Central Time. But I totally get that nap thing. I love naps. Let's see. Feels so early, but I guess it's 10:30. I must have been going for, wow, I've been going for an hour and a half already. My goodness. Surprise. But yeah, so right now I'm just working on lining the inside of Blood Moon here. Nothing super exciting. I think, what have we done this morning? I worked on strapping, oh, I guess, yeah. Lining has been the big thing. Then I also worked on a strap for the back of the head. So I used Velcro on mine. I know we did some buckles and stuff on the one you got, Cade, and I think the Velcro might be the option to go with in the future because I know that kind of creates a little bit of weirdness going on. So what I ended up doing was 3 layers of Velcro on a piece of elastic, and then it folds onto itself, and that's how I adjust the tightness. Again, it's easier when I've got myself here because I know if it fits or not, but yeah. So that's why I went with. We'll see if we can get yours to just kind of fit nice and secure and not slouch down or anything. So we'll work on that a little bit if we can. So, all right. So I stuffed some of the lining in. Like I said, for Blood Moon, I just went with a nice flat piece and I'm just kind of curving it around. For Jinx and Amon, I ended up patterning the inside, and then that's really a lot of work. It's kind of a pain. And even after you pattern it, it still doesn't necessarily feel like it works well because you're constantly having it fall in upon itself because you're on the inside of the project versus the outside of it where the fur and stuff typically just lays down and falls into place. Doing the lining, it's kind of doing the opposite. It wants to fall out of place. So I tend to just go with a flat piece for Blood Moon. Almost everything's fairly flat in here, and I can just kind of curve it around. So I don't go too in depth with it. I don't really care what the inside of it looks like. I just kind of want to keep the foam from getting too gross and having it directly on my face. But all right, so being kind of a stretchy material, I'm using like a sports material, so it's stretchy. I'm kind of just working the glue and the seams kind of together and just making it flat as I can. But usually towards the middle, I have a little bit of a lump that I'm kind of working into place and working into seams, but overall, it's not too bad. So, at least for me. All right, so I've got the excess material kind of working around the back here. I'll probably come to the other side here and do the exact same thing I just did. I'm gonna trim out a little bit of material here. Some of the foam that I had. Because I want to be able to stuff the liner down into these cracks. All right. So so I'm gonna run hot glue down into this hole around the eye. Stuff it down in there, stuff my finger into it, and have it hold nice and tight. All right. So all right, it's getting there. Let's see. Do the same thing on this side, right up along the edge. This is where that hinge goes, so I want to keep it down below the hinge area. That way, as the mouth moves, it's not just, I don't know, getting caught up on the lining or anything like that. So little bits of pulls there, and stretch it nice and tight. Stuff the first seam in, and then work the way around. And then I'll trim off all the excess material here in a minute, but yeah, starting to get some shape here. I guess I didn't run a glue line down the inner seam in there, so you can kind of see it. I'm gonna run some glue right down in there. That way it captures along the edge there. And the inside of things that are black on black on black with very little definition. I know they're tough to see, but yep. So yeah, 130 for you. And then FWA, yeah, I was talking to Jinx a little bit earlier, and oh, looking forward to it. It's 3 weeks out. That's so fast in my world right now, so it's coming up so fast. That's why I'm working throughout the weekend on this. Just I want to get this done so I can try working on the next project, and then hopefully I think I'm gonna work on pause next. So I need to start actually figuring up a plan for what I'm doing at pause, because that's probably just a few days out. And then once I get pause done, I'll see if I've got time for throwing together a tail. I think I want to make the tail actually longer, because the one I have is long, but it's just enough where the tip of the tail drags on the ground. But I want to have it either no dragging on the ground, or have it long enough to wrap back up and come towards my belt loop, where I can have the tail kind of captured with my, keep saying captured, but caught up with my belt, rather than just directly on the ground. So I'm kind of torn between, do I make it bigger or a smaller tail? But I think I'm gonna go a little bit longer. That'll make it a little bit tougher for traveling with, unless I get the amount of, I guess, material and stuffing just right, where it's fluffy, but it's not overly stuffed, so it's huge. So we'll see. I don't know. That'll be a about 2 weeks away project. So, all right. So lining, lining's looking all right. It's not great, but it's not horrible for a flat piece that I'm just tacking into place here. All right. There we go. That's getting it. And all of the excess material here, I'm gonna just trim out a lot of the big chunks here. And again, I'm not worrying about how clean the line is, because it's gonna be completely covered up by all the fur from the head and the ears. But I'd like to kind of tuck it back and around the head base here. So I used to try to be as stringent with the amount of material that I use on these projects, but then I'd find myself like being just lightly too short. So now I like to give myself plenty of scrap to work with. This stuff is like, I don't know, $6 a yard. So if I waste that amount of material, I've never found myself going, oh, if I only had a 2 inches more, except for when I cut it too short, I could finish this project. Like, it's, 50 cents worth at most of excess material that I could have saved, but not a big deal. Uh, Strings going everywhere. All right. And now I'm just gonna work a little bit of glue kind of along that back ridge, because that's not going to be directly on my head. That'll just kind of be in the background. So I'm going to work that up and around, press it into place. Like I said, this black stuff tends to flatten out and be really smooth, and you don't have any of those hard ridges like you normally would with the clear plastic or hot glue. So I'm pretty happy with the black stuff. They call it a fabric glue, so I think that's why it does so well when you actually glue fabric with it, because it just kind of flattens out. Okay, and then for the most part, I'm gonna work from the outside and let that nasty kind of excess buildup kind of happen right in the middle here, and then it's just kind of in one spot bunched up. And then I can either pin it together, trim it out, I don't know. But a little seam in the back of the head, that's in a spot that my head doesn't feel right down in the crack here anyways. So a little bit of a seam's not a big deal. All right, and chop this to go around the ear. Chop it to go around the ear. That's all kind of working. So sorry, I'm working with black on black. I know I keep saying that, but it's really tough to see. All right, pull this down into position. It's way down there. Right up the side. All right. All of this on the back is going to be completely hidden underneath the fur, so I just kind of like having it kind of wrap up in there, and it cleans up the edge a little bit. All right, so I also then take the little tiny bit of excess flap, and then I'll run it around the TPU base as well, and have it kind of grab onto the plastic. Once again, that's another point of contact that allows it to kind of all work together as a single unit and not just be kind of off in the middle of nowhere, working by themselves. So if it gets tugged on, we now have something for it to help transfer the load from one thing to the next. All right, so a little bit of lining there. I'm gonna glue a little bit more of that ear onto the lining and squeeze it in. Yeah, the black on black on black, and I think our side by side, it was called black on black on black when we bought it. It's like a Maverick X3. It's pretty fun, but right after I bought the black on black, I ended up putting like a vinyl wrap on it, and so it doesn't have that black on black anymore, but I need to get some new vinyl. It's been like 3 years since I did it last, and the Arizona sun and mud and dirt and just being outside all the time. Actually, it's in our horse barn. No, we don't have horses, but we have a horse barn. Uh, it just kind of deteriorates over the years, so I definitely need to work on rewrapping that. But you know how many projects I've got going on. That'll be a summer project when it's super hot, and so I won't do that. I'll probably wait till the fall, right when it's season to go riding again. But okay, um, gonna do a little bit between the ears here. Pull this up once again. And stuff it. one thing I do my best not to do is run these decently good scissors. I'm not saying they're just the good scissors, but they're way better than my cheap knockoff, you know, $5 scissors from any hobby store. But try not to run them through hot glue. That way I don't screw them up too much more than I already do, just being me. I'm kind of rough on my stuff. So let's see. There's a little bit of a pooch in here. So I'm just kind of filled that spot in, and I'm just gonna tuck it over like a paper airplane kind of thing going on here. Once again, it's hidden, so I'm okay with it pooching and being wrapped up and held into place with the glue. At least I am. And that's all that matters. It's my fursuit. Ooh. And that's my finger. Ooh. Might as well leave it. It's probably gonna protect me on the next few layers here. Sorry, I'm having it face me. I kind of gotta see what I'm doing here. All right. So much fur in my mouth. Wonder why. All right. Stuff and tuck and pull it around. Get my fingers stuffed into a big pile of glue here. So, dangle, dangle. Pull off. All right. I always surprise myself at how many of these glue sticks I go through, but they're not that huge. It's just, ah, it takes a lot of glue and a lot of time to do all this. I'm actually kind of surprised at how fast I made the last Blood Moon. I just kind of flew with him. Like, I didn't care. I just needed to get him done so I could go to that Ren Fair. I had so little time before the Ren Fair that I just cut so many corners, and in the end I saw that, yep, I made too many mistakes or too many cuts. It looks good from afar, but it just doesn't fit quite the way I'd like. It doesn't really hold up to what I'm hoping to be able to do. So yeah, this works pretty well. All right, so kind of forgot to wrap this around the TPU, so let's see if I have any that I can squeeze and pull. Yep, I do. All right, so put a thin layer around here, around the TPU edge, and I'll pull the lining up over top of that. There we go. And so I've got little part of the ear right here that's kind of separating from the base. I think that was just a lot of abuse and really trying to squeeze the ear onto plastic that the glue was already kind of drying up. So I'm just gonna pull this up in here and squeeze the ear back into place. And that should hold it. And really, once you start running the fur, and I sew everything kind of between the ear and the head, all of that holds super tight. And then I've got got the elastic holding the ears on. So even if a ear tears a little bit off of the base, the ears aren't just falling off. So All right, sweet. So now that thing is mostly lined, now I need to trim out the inside just a tad bit. Hopefully I can do it from, it's hard to fit like 8-inch scissors into a 6-inch space, so I have to do little tip snips. And would it have helped if I already had a template? No, probably not, because I still end up with a little bit of excess material around the edges, so this just, it's something I have to deal with. All right, snip, snip, snip. So I measured Blood Moon last night with the, I don't know if I had you guys on with me or not, but with the tape measure, and he's about 30 inches nose to tip of the ear, so he's got a little bit of a decent length to him. I hope it's not too big for me to like easily just throw into the overhead bin on the airplane, but I should know those dimensions. I used to work with the airlines for several years, but that was way back in high school. Things have changed so much. I'm sure I'll be fine. I'll just claim it's part of my medical device. I don't know. But yeah, he'll be fine. Worst case is I keep him kind of at the feet of my seat in the foot space, and he's kind of squishy as long as I don't fall asleep and someone steps on him on the way to the bathroom or something. But I think all in all, I'm gonna try to carry him in the cabin on the way to FWA. But if you see me at FWA and I don't have a fursuit head, you'll know something's screwed up. Maybe I'll steal Jinx's head. She doesn't need it. All right. All right. And one little snip across the front here. All right. And I'm kind of along the seam where I just cut, and I'm gonna glue it down just to hold that in place, make sure it doesn't really flap around and start pulling apart or anything. So get that stuff down in there. Sorry, can't see much of anything still, but it's just the life that I live. One camera, one angle. No angle is ever good. Ooh, no. And I dunked my finger into the glue. That's always awesome. I think I put it onto the low temperature setting, so the glue isn't as hot. So when I burn myself, it's not actually a horrible burn. It's just a minor inconvenience. So I'm also doing this completely out of order. Normally, one of the very first things that I would do is already have the eyes in place. But because I jacked up the eyes, it's being held off till like I don't know, probably this afternoon. So everything's just kind of going out of order. I put the ears on before I put the head base, like back of the head piece on. Like, I feel like I'm doing things differently than I normally would, which might be a good thing, might not be a good thing. We'll find out. We'll see. But what I am happy about is everything's kind of fitting and feels like it fits nice. So I'm going to take that as a win. But I don't see anything that would really cause me any issues by doing the eyes here a little bit later. Uh, the only thing that I could run into is as I'm gluing from the inside, I just have to dodge a little bit more material. But normally I work the eyes kind of from the outside, glue them in, tack them into place, and then glue it really well here. And then maybe like pull up a big glob of glue kind of up underneath the eyes just to ensure that it's caught from two different sides. So, so it's kind of laying in here like this. I can pull up the glue, that way they don't pop out forward or backward. So I'm not too worried about that. It should be fine. And then here this afternoon, hopefully I could sculpt the eyes in. Not these ones, because these are the bad ones. But sculpt those into place. Epoxy sculpt them around. Kind of get the shape that I need. And so scary looking. That's why I really like putting eyelids on him. It just kind of breaks up that big eye and kind of makes him a little bit less stare into the depths of your soul. Let's see. Yeah, there we are. I'm almost going on 2 hours now this morning, so that was fun. So yeah, I think the big thing that I really kind of did, got the lining, and here's the back of the head harness. That's the elastic. It's got a little bit of play to it, and then I could just squeeze it into place. Got that kind of hanging out. I think you guys might be able to see that. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Sure. But it holds it into place, and then for, I think, Cade, I did a little bit of lining on my jaw, and I have a little cup here for my mouth to, or the chin to go into. And I use Minky on, well, I can't show anything. I use Minky on it to just give me something to put my chin into. I don't know if that's gonna make me happy or angry, so I could let you know when we see each other at FWA. Yep, that was a bad idea, Minky. It is sopping wet. I don't like it. Or, hey, this actually turned out to be real nice because it's soft and smooth and I don't have to worry about slipping around. I don't know, it's got a little texture to it, so it's kind of nice. But, so, I've got the Minky there, and I think at this point I'm just really now just need to put the eyes in and sculpt them into place. And then I'll let that sit overnight. And then I think I just have to glue the fur on since we got the ears done last night. I got the face done. Now I might start sewing and cutting out the last couple pieces of fabric, fur. I think the only piece I had left was kind of over the back of the head, and that'll come down. Then I can sew all those pieces together and prepare Blood Moon for his furring, which I think will happen tomorrow. And then he's about done. I might do a couple touch-ups on the teeth just because the bottoms of the teeth have been sliding around on the table. There's a few goobers on it, so I might take a razor blade to them just to trim up some little blobs or whatnot. I don't know if you can see. There's a little bit of texture to them, but that also gives it some texture, so I don't know. I don't think I'll do anything with it. It's in the mouth. It's not a big deal. I'm happy with how he's coming together, though. He looks a little jacked up there. His jaw's not quite aligned. All right. But, all right. I think that's where I'm gonna call it until I'm able to get these eyes going. So I'll probably do it a little bit more this afternoon or this evening. If I see you guys then, great. If not, I'm sure I'll see you on the next one, and maybe I'll start thinking about designs I'm gonna do on the pause. So that is probably my next job or my next project. That way I can go to FWA as a complete partial, whatever it is, partial circle. So, and then I guess I need to think about the rest of my outfit. What else am I gonna wear? So I don't want to go with the full suit. I did see a furry in my, or a circle in my circle chat that they have for FWA, and they've got a really big, thick, fluffy neck piece, and I kind of like that. I don't know. I think I'm gonna get too hot if I put a big old neck fluff, but I love the neck fluff. So I may consider doing that. But all right, well, I'll either see you guys in a couple hours or I won't. So thank you again for hanging out with me. I'll see y'all later. See ya.